Hi, and welcome to another episode of eCom at One. Today's guest, Cass Majid, CEO of the WOW Group of Companies. How you doing, Cass?
I'm really well, Richard. How are you?
I am very, very good. Looking forward to this one. Now, me and Cass met a few months ago. We've become good pals, basically, through sort of different events and partners in the industry. And I thought it'd be great to get Cass on. Cass has got a wealth of experience in the eCom space and dev space and all sorts of sort of tech areas, and that are very relatable to our listeners and to you guys listening now. So, Cass, how you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. And we were speaking just before, and it's gone crazy for us over the last few weeks, and just going to trying to get projects out the door. Yeah, so but very busy and very blessed.
Oh, brilliant. That's great to hear. So I think it'd be good to kick off with, tell our listeners very much sort of about the WOW Group and your mission at WOW Group and what WOW Group.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Really appreciate it. So WOW Group of companies, we're a group of creative and digital agencies. I've been in the industry for over 20 years now, and this was before it was called agency. We were just a web development agency back in the early 2000s. And I've seen the highs and lows of business, and I've exited a few businesses as well, which I've been very fortunate to do that. WOW Group of companies is predominantly 5 different brands. We've got WOW, which specializes in design, implementation, integration, and activation of e-commerce stores, and we're agnostic across the board. So all the big e-com platforms, Shopify, BigCommerce, OpenCart, Magento, and WooCommerce, kind of the stuff that we would be working on, and really helping businesses scale to some of the numbers that they want to get to. So traditionally, it might be a business that's doing a couple of million quid, and they really want to scale to 10-15 million pounds online, and that's the kind of customers that we deal with. We have another business based in London called Rawjam, which specializes in developing web applications and apps on iOS and Android, and specialize in a technology called Python. So really large scale projects in terms of web applications. We have a little creative agency that does like design and whatnot for very small organizations. And we have a content agency and IT support company as well. And my personal mission, is to grow our group of companies through acquisition. So we're on this mission, and it's a really exciting time for us.
That's brilliant. It sounds like we could probably do an episode on quite a few of the parts that make up e-commerce, from dev to UX. I think UX I'm keen to talk about very much today, and acquisition, M&A, that sort of stuff is very interesting stuff. We don't talk about that too much. That's as an e-com store listening in, if you're doing £2 million a year, whatever that number may be, to acquire, that's an interesting topic. Maybe that's something we get you back on for a bit further down through the months of the year. But I think UX, I'm super keen to move into. So in its simplest forms, I think UX gets banded around and the sort of terminology in the industry, but I think a lot of e-com stores maybe get a bit confused with it, and so I think it'd be good to dive in. Why is UX so important to e-com stores?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's a very in vogue thing, isn't it? And UX touches every part of our life. So in the context of online, it's really how your users experience your website, how easy it is to purchase your product, to look at your product, and to buy your products. So in a nutshell, it's really how the interaction is. It basically says what it does on the tin. It's user experience. How easy is it for the people that are coming to your website to buy your products or services?
And so obviously it's pretty important, because if the UX is poor, the experience is going to be short and swift, and bye-bye, I'm out of there. It's like walking to potentially, you're walking into a store, into a physical store, and think, flipping out, what a dump. I can't find what I'm looking for. Where's the tills? Where's the checkout? I guess it's very similar to, if not the same, in a different way. But so UX, very important. That user experience, walking around the website, and making sure that things are easy to navigate, easy to flow. And I think when we start talking about UX, we quite often have this internal sort of, obviously we have an SEO agency here, we have two in effect, but and very much we quite often have this battle between design and SEO. Well, battle's probably a bit strong actually, but some quite heated conversations over the many years. You get the elements of they've had this website design. It's like wow, but then the SEO piece, maybe that technical piece, is quite often overlooked. And then you have to sort of go, well, we can't do that. It looks great, but obviously ultimately, looking nice is one thing, but that doesn't mean the UX has been looked at, does it? So, how can a marketer balance? How can a marketing team or a store get that balance between having a good UX, and having a good design? What would you say on that?
Well, I mean, the key thing to all of this is to understand the people that are actually interacting with the product or service that you're designing online.
Yeah.
And if you keep them at the heart of that process, and answer the questions of not what you think, but actually what the user will be thinking.
Yeah.
If you put yourself into their shoes, that's the place to start. And also look at what problems that you're looking to solve, because ultimately user experience really fulfills a positive experience for someone to come to your website. And as we know now, and as you will know, because you're the experts in SEO, one of the things that Google says to websites, and one of the things it looks at is how easy do you make it for my user to navigate your website? Yeah. Am I getting the right information delivered to me in a way that's concise and that allows me to really get through it as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
And I think good UX starts with, and always should start with the people that are going to be your customers.
Yeah.
And so therefore, where sometimes designers fall down is it's very much a self-image of themselves, what they're trying to create, because
their opinion, isn't
it? 100%, it becomes like, I mean, back in the day, we used to, we used to watch that program, Changing Rooms, and it used to be the designer and his image or their image or her image of how they wanted to the design of that particular room, when actually, or you talk about location, or there was that lady, Marianne Fostrop, used to sell houses.
Yeah.
And she always used to say, design the house. If you're going to sell it, is to decorate the house in the way that someone else is going to buy it, not in your own image.
Yeah.
And I think UX is very much about that.
I love it. Yeah.
Absolutely critical to that. Critical is the human beings that are going to be interacting with your website. You must keep that what we call customer persona at the heart of everything, and what problems you're going to solve for them.
It's very similar to, I've just had a call with somebody and we're talking about, sort of data specifically. And it's the same sort of thing as a business owner, as a strong-minded individual that owns an eCom store, have a strong opinion naturally, it is good, but that can be dangerous, can't it? Very, very dangerous, because, everything is just led by you. And especially in UX, where you just think this is what we need to do. Of course, you've got a strong opinion and you'll have a lot of good insight, but you won't know. You won't know sort of your thousands of customers, what they're doing exactly, what you think. Obviously, we can layer technology in to really find out. An opinion could be quite dangerous in times. And I think when it comes to UX, definitely, strong opinion, strong sort of negotiating skills potentially can be quite dangerous in this scenario, would you say?
100%. And Richard, what I would say is that every interaction that we create when we're doing eCom stores, there are slight nuances. So what we're doing is we're working off reference points of data that we've collected in the past from other websites, and applying that data to new websites. So we know that the principles of having the product on the left-hand side, having a good description, having a clear call to action to buy the product are the basic principles, but we won't know how that's going to behave and interact until we actually throw data onto the website, i.e. traffic, or not so much data we throw onto the website, but you throw traffic onto the website is what you do, and then glean from that data, actually, this is what's happening. So all of a sudden now, e-com merchants that are doing really, really well, they're the ones that really understand that actually we're going to be driven by the data that we get, and actually move accordingly and take our personal opinion out of the equation.
And I know speaking to a lot of our listeners, they're at that stage, where they are doing, multiple millions, and to get from a 0 to 100K, I guess that is quite challenging, but we're not talking about that. When and probably your opinion will do the job. But when you're trying to get from 5 mil to 10 mil, 10 mil to 20 mil, that is, quite a dangerous piece. And I think, obviously can be you've got to invest in it. You've got to commit to it. You've got to sort of step aside, bite your tongue, bite your lip, I think, and then make sure that you're using the data, you're using the tools, you're using a collective, rather than that opinion. So I think, it's a great piece. So obviously you've worked on, I think you've referred to, was it 2020? That's like more than a lifetime in this game, isn't it? You've worked on a few things, let's say, you've got 5, businesses, agencies, obviously seen a lot of sites, and worked on a whole, every problem and solution probably known to man. Anybody's sitting there now listening, thinking, well, we have this problem with this problem. I would say that Cass has seen it, done it, rebuilt it, and redone it again. So what would you say in terms of improving UX? What are some of the reoccurring things that you see? I know it's probably a tricky question because obviously it varies, it depends and that type of thing. But ultimately, what are some of the top tips you would give for improving UX on a site?
Once again, for me, it's got to be data driven. Look at exactly where exit points are, and very much have it as an iterative process. Not try to change things too much because things aren't working. You've got to really it becomes a trial and error kind of scenario where, and very much a testing scenario. So number one, I think, is the attitude. The businesses that we work with, they've scaled. They understand that the testing process, feedback process is at the heart of everything. And at the heart of that is the customer. So speaking to your customers, listening to your customers, asking them really kind of simple but tough questions like, how can we improve this? Asking them, that's a really, really good way of improving UX. Now, some of the stuff is very basic. It's slowness of site. Are the pages too heavy? Does it take too long to load? Am I getting enough information? Am I getting too much information? Are the descriptions too long? Are they too short? Do I get enough views of the product from different angles? And simple things like, is it easy for me to pay? Is it easy for me to click on a button and go straight into the payment basket? And actually, one of the other things that we find that works really well is, many years ago, someone told me about doing presentations, and they told me this basic thing: tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them again. So, and that principle is true for a website. So if you know exactly where you are in the buying process of the website, that actually this is going to come next, and that's where you've come from, that really helps stickability. The big stickability was a big thing back in 2007. It was a commonly known phrase, that people sticking on your website. It still holds true today. That people you should be telling your users exactly where they are on the page. And you know what? There's all these other little nuances about using different colors. Are you using greens and reds? Are you using colors that kind of just wash away in the background for buttons, for example, or for tabs at the top? These are the kind of things that really make a better and lighter user experience. But one of the biggest things now is that most people that are browsing online, they are very educated buyers. If someone's looking for someone, they've probably looked at that product probably 5 or 6 times. And if your brand is visible to those people and you make it easy for them, they're more likely to buy your product, and you probably do a lot of work around this, is where people are in the buying funnel.
Yeah.
You know, if someone says, I'm looking for a mattress, they usually higher up the buying funnel because they're browsing.
Yeah.
But if your product and service is delivered to them, and your brand is in front of them, they're more likely to buy that product from you because they recognize your brand. But if someone says, I've got a back problem that needs solving, they probably know exactly the type of product that,
that's very
that they're going for.
Yeah, very orthopedic mattress potentially, or a certain type of content page that is talking about the benefits of insert mattress name, brand type. Yeah. So I think, I can imagine the listeners were nodding along there. I was definitely nodding along there because it very much resonates with me. I think obviously speed you touched on there. That goes across so many things in digital now. I think speed, obviously SEO. I think everyone listening will know it's a major factor. But it's not just a factor for SEO. At the end of the day, just think of it as a human being. You're sat there and you're waiting for something to load, or something's not fitting right and not loading. It's just, we haven't got time for that. I'm off. Just a simple sort of human nature, isn't it? Even more so, I think now, speed, people just won't put up with slow websites anymore, and Google certainly won't. And if you're scrolling through a website and you can't find what you want because something's not loading or something's overlaying something, or, so I think speed, I think checkout is such a big one. We talk about it a lot on the podcast, but just some of the things you see, it's just, I think guys listening in, those checkouts, how many payment providers do you have? How many, can you take Apple Pay? Can you take Amazon Pay? And I would imagine there's quite a few people going, crap, we can't. It's just simple things, isn't it? Some of them are simple to us, I guess, and to yourself. But I think some of these things, can get overlooked. So I think, real good hit list there, guys. I would maybe pause now, and I'll rewind that last 5 minutes and just have a little listen through, or look at the show notes and just tick off. Do you know what? We need to do some work on speed. What's your sort of go-to tool for checking speed then? Is GT metrics or page speed, Google?
Yeah, so Google's page speed, GT metrics.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Richard, we're doing some work for an eCom store right now, and we put in to see what the site is extremely slow. So we put the site into Google Page Speed Insights. They keep changing the name, so I call it Google Page Speed.
Yeah.
I was doing some work and I'd left it in the background, and I put it in at 9 o'clock, and it didn't give me any data back until 6 o'clock. It was still churning.
Yeah.
So page speed.
And I think page speed. There's usually some quick wins there, isn't there? It's not, always
really quick wins. Some really quick wins.
Yeah. It can quite often be a resize of an image, which can take 30 seconds. In some, obviously it's not always that, but it's not always that simple. But it could, quite often there are images that can be tightened up. But obviously then there's some more, a little bit heavier duty stuff, and then server side stuff, and
I think the analogy that we did a Google seminar a couple of years ago was on eCommerce. And I think the analogy that Google give is that we have the attention span of a lazy goldfish, which is absolutely bang on, isn't it?
Goldfish have no attention. They haven't got
exactly. No memory, it's gone. So
even lazy.
So speed is really important, and I think what this also highlights is the interaction and the relationship between SEO, the stuff that you do is brilliant, and understanding that right from the outset. If you're designing a site, you've got to design it with speed and functionality and usability. And is Google going to read my website, and my PPC ads? You've got to think about all these things right from the outset. The good businesses that are re-platforming, for example, they'll have got to their business to a certain stage, and they've started off on a kind of rudimental kind of e-commerce platform, and now they want to go a bit more heavy duty because their business is scaling. One of the things that we will always talk about those fundamental things, and those are those fundamental things about content, about SEO, about how you're going to market your products. These all have a factor in building the right foundations for a site to be successful and to scale.
So I think on the flip side of that, it's a similar question, I guess. We're talking about sort of the top tips to improve, but what would you say are the two biggest mistakes? Is it what you just said? The two biggest mistakes that you see e-commerce retailers making? So obviously we've gone through things that people should be improving and working on. But in terms of like the biggest mistakes you see, if you were to go to any website, what's the biggest, say, two things that you see normally, or it's quite a recurring thing?
I think number one is if it's an e-com site, then you land on the homepage and you don't see any products.
Yeah, just some nice banners. Yeah,
just some nice banners. Just telling you stuff.
Yeah.
There's no offers.
Yeah. Telling us all about
there's no products.
Yeah,
you have to scroll down.
Yeah.
You got to look at your own homepage as your shop window. That's your opportunity to use that real estate to really sell that product or some offers that you've got.
Yeah.
To really entice them into the shop.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit like a window dressing, isn't it? When you go to a store. So I actually really like that suit, and once you're in,
wants to look nice, but you need to see some suits, don't you? I might see some nice branding and some nice, get a feel for the quality of the business because the branding is nice. But if it's just a big banner saying "Look at us," you think, well, what do you actually sell? You're obviously going to get a feel for it, but you want to see the products, don't you? Yeah.
And then the other big thing is, how easy is it for me to look at the product and buy it? The processes that are in between, or the pages that are in between, the buying a product just becomes so procrastinated and so lengthy that people just want to get out. I want to click the button, and the thing is, Amazon are to blame for this because they've made it so easy to buy a product. You see a product and you buy it and it's gone. All of a sudden you've bought it, and that's the way that we as consumers now want our experience. So I think making sure that you have a fast payment process with choice.
Yes.
Whether it's your standard kind of bank merchant, Klarna.
Split pay.
Clear pay. Can I make? So these choices are really, really coming into the marketplace now, where people are expecting it. Can I do it from my mobile? Obviously mobile first.
Without having to pull your credit card out and sit there and try and type your numbers into a little box that's the size of a peanut or whatever. So now it's just double click on the side and you've purchased the product from the wallet. Which is what you want, isn't it? Hence why so many people buy from Amazon. Well, a major part obviously is that speed of checkout with Amazon, 1-2 click, or even obviously one click, isn't it? One click and you're out if you've got everything.
Yeah. You got to make friction, reduce the friction on your website.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to, that's brilliant, I think. So moving on to sort of tools and specifics. So if the guys that are sitting here now thinking, I just want to find out, it's all very well and good, right? We need to ask our users, we need to find out more about what they actually do on the site. And obviously there's various things out there, but have you got any specifics that you would recommend to our users around tools or tactics, but tools, tactics, that they're going to pause after you say this now, they'll be able to pause the episode and go in and have a look at XYZ or install XYZ or look at XYZ?
Yeah, I think obviously there's a lot of the e-com stores now themselves come with a lot of tools within like things like Shopify and BigCommerce. You can have plugin tools that tell you what users are doing, abandoned basket kind of stuff. So if someone gets to the basket and they've abandoned it, it sends them an email reminder. So that's kind of really good stuff. Stuff like basic stuff. Is your Google Analytics set up correctly? Are the goals set up correctly? Are you looking at conversion attribution across all the different channels? Across, people are coming in, they're looking at your website, they're going off to YouTube, they're reading a blog about you, they're going to your social media channels, how those channels interact with each other. And do you really understand that? Working with someone like yourselves can really give them the insight of how to and what the understanding of where people are coming from and what they're using to find you. So Google Analytics set it up correctly in the first instance. Stuff like Hotjar, it's a great analytics tool that tells you how people are interacting on your website, where people are coming, what they're doing, how they're doing it, where they're falling out, what pieces of content they're spending lots of time on. and how that's working, how each individual page is working. Hotjar gives you a lot of insight around that. And then the other thing is like,
sorry, go on.
And then the other thing is Mouseflow. Mouseflow really tells you, it's quite an old product, but they've obviously updated it and stuff. It really tells you how people are flowing through your website.
Yeah.
You know, where the sticking points are. We talked about friction earlier, where the friction points are, and think actually you can then hone in on, well, actually, you know what? We're getting 30% of people dropping out here. We're getting another 30% dropping out here. And actually, we're only getting, you know, this amount of conversions. So let's just analyze exactly that journey.
Yeah.
And again, you know, tell them what you're going to tell them again, and then tell them again. So I think analyzing that funnel is so important.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, Cass. So going back to this 20 years in the trenches, long time, same as me, pretty much.
Yeah.
Man and boy, pretty much. I think
pretty
much left uni and there was this thing called the internet and started a few bits and bobs, to say the least, sort of thing. But obviously you worked on a lot of websites. Could you sort of step us through, you know, if you can mention a brand, fine. If not, I understand. But, you know, sort of a project that you've worked on where you've improved UX, what sort of things that you did and what were the sort of outcomes?
Okay, so I can tell you there was someone in the brand industry. All our clients are on NDA. We've done a lot of work in the furniture industry.
Yeah.
And it was a client that came to us that was doing a couple of $100,000 initially. They'd got it to a certain stage, and what we said to him is that we need to really look at A, changing your platform, B, part of that re-platforming process will be to look at your pages. And he was spending quite a lot of money actually on PPC, and we felt that he could get far more sales, A, if he changed platform, and B, didn't have to spend anymore. And it took us about 6 months to persuade him, to really get him round to thinking that actually, it is this problem. And Richard, within the first month of the site going live, with the same traffic, didn't change, he'd increased his sales by 5 times. Within the first quarter, his sales, with the same traffic, went from 5 times to 10 times in terms of his sales revenue.
Wow.
Which was a massive, massive thing for us. And the thing that we did was we just simplified those interactions with the client, with the user, as it were. Looking at the homepage, building some offers around the homepage, building really good product and category pages, making it easy for people to search on the site, and making the product pages really rich and informative for them, and keeping it simple in terms of, you know, clicking on the buy button and it takes you through the buying process.
Yeah.
And it was really as simple as that, whereas before it was really clunky. It was kind of taking them back, and then it was very confusing, very confusing.
I think it's quite surprising when you look at, you know, sites that are maybe doing, you know, well, whatever the numbers are, but, you know, something as simple as a replatform. Well, I shouldn't say simple, it's not simple, but, you know, a replatform, you know, and then obviously stepping through everything. You know, would you say, you know, if somebody's got a store listening and they've maybe had the same tech stack for many years, you know, and then maybe, God, we can't change it. You know, Jim built this back in, or Brian, who used to work here, built this back in. It's quite common, isn't it? You find, you know, maybe not as much now, but it's a bloke who used to work here built this 4 years ago, and then we started doing a couple of orders, and now we're doing 7 million quid, and we didn't touch anything because Jim don't work here anymore. Type thing, you know, they're taking that, and I think that's sort of where you guys definitely specialize a lot, don't you, in sort of taking, you know, and taking all sorts of build, shall we say, and then building them into, or upgrading them into, you know, whether that's, like you said, Magento, Aero, Shopify, but something as, say, simple, because it's quite complicated, but a replatform can be quite a, you know, you can, if it's done very well, can very much be a, you know, a success. But at the same time, there's obviously a lot of moving parts with the SEO side as well. So you've got to be careful, haven't you?
You have to be careful, and you've got to really kind of plan out strategically a re-platforming process, because it's just not about, let's just say you've got 4,000 products on your site. It's not just about moving the products across, it's moving across, you know, the as you mentioned, the SEO juice that you've created, that goodwill that you've created online with your digital assets, but also about customer history. So how do you really kind of move that across to the new site? And it has to be a very, very planned out strategic process that you have to go through. And we'd spend a lot of time planning that out first, rather than just jumping straight into it and going, this is the design. There's a lot of work in the background, particularly for a re-platform, that you have to think about.
I think with the re-platform, probably a follow-up question for that would be also sort of site structure. So we've got our site, you know, we know that the structures, you know, the products are all maybe a bit all over the joint. We've got not as many subcats as we should have. And you know, there's a multitude of things. What would your sort of 30-second, maybe we'll give you a minute, 60-second version on sort of restructuring a site? You know, you're going to move from one platform to another. Maybe you're not, but you know you need a restructure. And if you're going to go from one platform to another, is that not a good time to do it? How would you tackle a restructure?
It's a really good question. I think one of the first things we'd do is probably do the site hierarchy. So actually mapping out the site and then working with people like yourselves that are doing the SEO and saying, actually, look, this is the complexity of what they've currently got, but we want to simplify that to make sure that the SEO juice is maintained on that site, but actually is a lot simpler as well. So looking at the URL structure, the categories, and making sure that everything is in the right category and the product and the URLs reflect that as well. So it's / you know, boxes, and then you've got white boxes, as it were. So just following a really simple hierarchy really eliminates a lot of that, a lot of those problems. But from the ground up, it's so important, even before UX, is to really look at the site structure and making a site map, and then working with someone like yourselves to say, right, this is what we want to achieve. How is that going to impact your SEO or the marketing of the website? Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you for that. So crystal ball time. We're sat here in 12, 18 months. We're talking about UX. What do you think is going to be what's coming down the line? What are the things that our listeners need to be very aware of, need to be thinking of now so they can get in front of it to really improve that customer experience, that user experience?
I think this whole thing about, you know, this metaverse is coming into play now. And I think very much is going to be very much immersive experiences where people can really interact with products. And we've seen that already, where people are really looking at how they can kind of navigate through a site, but they're physically there, or they can really interact with a salesperson, not just on an auto attendant or a kind of you know, you go into a site and a thing pops up, but actually really immerse yourself into the site. And I think that's happening. It happened 10 years ago with this thing called Second Life. This is the second version of it, you know? This is the second version of it. And I think immersive experience is going to be so important. So I think, you know, those people that really kind of think, well, actually, that's beyond me. It'll happen in a very organic and natural way. But just simple things like, and it's happening now with some of the really, really big brands where you can really look at the products in a 3D manner and kind of understand that this is the products. But actually the next step to that is, how does this product work inside my environment or on me? So if it's a clothing brand, how does it look on me? Or if it's a piece of furniture, how does that piece of furniture look and behave in my own environment? And this whole thing about personalization and customization is going to be more and more now. You know, if it's food online, you know, how can I create my own burger? You know, not just I'm going to pick this, and this, but how does it look in real time?
Cass, that is absolute genius. I love that. That's a brilliant finish. I think there's 2 or 3 things there as the future. I think metaverse, you know, that's something I am so like, I know this much, but speak to me in 3 months' time. That's where my brain's at the moment. I had spent 2 hours today talking to 2 different people about this, and had a very similar conversation, which maybe we'll have a catch up at the end about this. But I won't say I'm going all in on it, but I'm definitely, from a personal point of view, we'll be opening. Yeah, I'll be buying a few things very, very soon. Put it that way. Well, thanks for being on the show. We always like to end every episode with a book recommendation. Cass, what would you recommend as a book for our listeners?
So the book that I'm reading right now is Who Not How. It's by Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
And it talks about, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs, they get stuck in the how, when actually you should be thinking about the who's. So we're all surrounded by who's, people in your network, your social capital, you know, who can help you do this rather than how can I do this?
Yeah, great thinking, great thinking. So for the guys that want to find out more about Wow Group, more about yourself, what's the best place to do that? And how
you can visit our website, wowgroup.co.uk. You can cross all the social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And if they want to connect with me personally, just connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Cass Majid.
Fantastic. Well, Cass, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
With you again soon. See you later.
Cheers. Bye-bye.